It's 4 o'clock, and I'd like to call the Finance Subcommittee of the Utility Service Board meeting to order. Our first item on the agenda is the Winston Thomas Financial Analysis presentation. We have Jennifer Wilson. Oh, okay, thank you.
I remember this flow chart, and we are still where we were the last time we talked about this. The engineering study for the site restoration and grading is going to be done soon. We're in some final stages of that. We'll be ready to move ahead with demolition permitting and planning to do that project, hopefully still later this year. The other question that everyone's been thinking about is the financial study. We finally got the appraisals on the current building, and Jennifer has put together a financial analysis of what the bond cost would be for the project of the scale that we were talking about previously. So I'll leave this as, I just wanted to remind everybody of where we are in the process. Pretty clearly at this point, if we move forward with this project, we won't be doing a separate petition to the IURC for bonding on this project. We'll just roll it into the 2024 plan, the planned 2024 rate case. So it'll all go in together. Okay. So I'll let Jennifer go ahead.
Thank you.
Very good.
Welcome.
So we've prepared a rate and finance, or a financing report, because we're not really contemplating rates at this point in time. And what we want to do is be able to show you how you would be able to finance that with your existing rates. So our PDF of the report is up there. Let's go a couple pages to the income statement. There we go. So first we do it, just re-summarize your financial statements. So this is your balance sheet. So we show 2022, 2021, and 2020 just as comparison, so you can see over time what's happened with your utility. If you would go a few more pages. So this is the balance sheet. The next page is the liabilities and owner's equity. And then we show your current amortization schedule. So those are just your currently outstanding debt. So if you could go about 5 or 6 pages down. We're just going to zip right through all these amortization schedules. Yeah, just keep going. Sorry. Another page, another page. These are your ESG solar leases, your outstanding leases. All right, here's the statement of income that's interesting to show what's happening over time with your income statement.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you tell me what page that is, just on that, not on the PDF, but just up to the corner of the page? Just scroll up just a hair on the corner of the, it'll say in the 13. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, very good. Page 13. And again, we show here on your income statement your revenues and your expenses for just the water utility for 2022, 21, and 20. And as you know, in 2022, you had the first phase of your rate increase that was implemented January 1st, and then it was slightly changed in August when the utility receipts tax decreased, but then the true up the debt service increased. But so overall, your rates last year were pretty consistent. There wasn't a whole lot of change. Then we're going to go another page or so, go 2 more pages down. Then we make adjustments. So this is your adjustment to the financial statements, and this is on page 16. So the only adjustments that we really make are to your adjustments for your revenue. So what we show here is your increase for your phase 2 rates that will go into effect on January 1st, 2024. And that's 8.74% increase over approximately on all the revenues over this past year. We also make a few adjustments to your expenses. That's just to remove some expenses that had to do with your bonding last year that's not going to be reoccurring. And we remove the utility receipts tax. So we get to what an adjusted test year would look like. We explain that on the next page. So let's actually go down 2 more pages to the proposed service center financing, what we're here to discuss. Page 18 here, the proposed service financing. The estimated cost of the new center is a total of about $44.7 million. We have reduced down the bond issuance by the average of the 2 estimates appraisals that you have You had a 2.8 and a 4.1, so we struck right in the middle at 3,450,000. And so we proposed the bond issuance would be about $41,255,000 that would be financed by all the utilities, so stormwater, sewer, and water. Water's portion of that will only be 40% of that. So on the next page, we show what that proposed amortization schedule might look like. And this is the amortization schedule for the entire financing. So the first few lines show the principal, our estimated coupon, the total debt service for all utilities, and then we allocate 40% of the debt service to the water utility to come up with basically $1.2 million per year is what we estimate the water portion of this new financing center financing would be. The next page, we just pull together all your debt, just showing the current outstanding debt and the addition of this new debt. So that, and the next page is showing the coverage. And that's what's important in a financing case is the coverage. So we come down and we have operating revenues adjusted for the second phase of the rate increase of $21.7 million minus your current operating expenses. So you have revenues available for debt service of about $10 million. Your total outstanding annual debt service that you'll be paying from the water utility, $7,779,000, so that you have coverage of 130%. We propose that, we're not sure how this financing might go forward. It might be done on a building corp side and all the debt service gets allocated to the utility, to each utility, the stormwater, the sewer, and the water. So we don't necessarily have to have parity debt coverage of 125, but usually that's the minimum that we are aiming for. So we would be able to recommend that you could go forward with a financing with your current rates and charges and still have the minimum required coverage. That summarizes in quick the report. Sorry to give it to you all in a report format, but if you have any specific questions, I'm open for questions at this point.
Okay, do any board members have any questions? Amanda, yeah.
Okay, but thank you for
Yes.
everyone doing that very succinctly. But one of my big questions is, where are we getting this estimated amount from? I mean, we don't have a building, we don't have plans, we have nothing that states that the building would be $44 million.
What happened was we took the master plan that had the estimates in it. Then our engineering department has updated the numbers that were provided in the master plan to reflect the current market conditions and some other adjustments to the plan in terms of square feet. And then that's where that number was arrived at, and it includes contingency as well. Is Phil here? Phil, you can speak to that.
What master plan?
The Winston Thomas master plan that we did a couple of years ago, 4 years ago now.
Yeah, Philippine Engineering, Paul Kripe was hired, that engineering company, to do a master plan of the site. And then, like Vic said, the numbers were older. They were, I think, 2019, 2020 numbers, and then things really escalate. We see that a lot on our other projects that were estimated before the pandemic. And so we adjusted those costs per square foot for the use of the building. And then that's where we came to the $44,000. That includes utilities and site grading and all the aspects, asphalt, concrete, all those are included in those total costs. It's not just the building.
Isn't there some way to break it down for us? That's a big, huge number that includes everything, and I don't know what goes into it, so.
Yeah, I don't have those numbers to share on the screen today, but we do have those numbers.
Well, it would be nice if we could.
They were provided in the previous report, and then we just updated that report, so they are broke down in an itemized fashion.
It would be nice to get that.
I think what we need to do is, we weren't really seeking any action on this item. This was just to report, because I know everybody's been anxious to see how things came out after we got the appraisals. But I would think at a future meeting soon, we will come back with a more detailed presentation about where the numbers, of the plan and how the pieces break out on this. Because we're going to be coming back, hopefully in the next month or so, to begin the grading project at the site and to tear down the old buildings that need to be demolished. So that would be the first phase, and that's a purely sewer project. That's just to restore the site. So at that point, I think it would be a good time to go through all of those pieces in detail.
Do you have any, could you tell us approximately how much it got increased over the 3 to 4 years since the original? Do you remember what that was?
It was approximately double.
Whew.
Only doubled.
So the likelihood is if we waited another few years, it would double again, or not?
Well, that's the inflation on these projects has slowed down somewhat.
Yeah.
But it did really spike up, beginning during the pandemic and then continuing on in '23. I think it's been an ongoing problem for us.
I missed how long the debt would be. How many years is the bond?
Yes, we estimate a 20-year
20
term.
year. 20 year. And I just add that, and it's, on the topic of costs, for capital projects, we at the university have had a lot of the same issues. We've had projects, large one that we sent out for bids a couple of years ago. It was so high, we just stopped and waited a couple of years, and the price came down 20 million. So that's not so bad. So things are leveling off, and this is an estimate we might see more favorable when we put it out for bids, or one way or the other, I guess. Depends on what all we want to include. But we've seen the same kind of thing, Vic. There was so much demand with all the infrastructure money that the federal government was throwing out there with the Economic Recovery Act, and now it's leveling off a bit.
Yeah, and we saw the same thing with a lot of it also is in wages and salaries, because there was huge demand for the construction workers, huge demand for engineers. As you know, we lost a lot of experienced staff there in 21 and 22, and that also is leveling off a bit. So we're not seeing as much of that kind of price pressure. But those prices went up and stayed up. They didn't come back down, but they held pretty steady at this point. But as you know, we had projects that we had engineers' estimates that were 1/3 or 1/2 of what the bid amount was. And, for a number of years there, from 2017, 2018, 2019, we regularly got bids that were lower than the engineer's estimate, and now it's going the other way.
Clarify, so we look at 7.8 million more or less annual principal and interest for 20 years? It's on the slide there, yeah.
Yeah, you mean on page 19 of the PDF? So
so.
go up a couple pages to, there we go. This is the new debt amortization schedule that we're talking about. So the $41.2 million worth of principal maturing each year ends up being about $2.9 million annually as amortization, and then the water utility gets allocated 40% of that. So their portion is 1.2 million of that 2.9.
So then our total cost for the project, is that the 81.2 million figure?
81.2.
At the, oh, heck.
I see 50.
I'm on page 20.
Page 20 is your combined outstanding debt.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, but
So-
you're right, on the second to the left column is the amount that the water utility will be paying. So its total is 21.1 $1.153 million over 20 years.
I'm sorry, maybe this is me just not
Yeah, yeah,
getting it,
yeah.
but when we're pulling out water utility,
Yes.
but we're covering stormwater and,
And that's actually
and
this
everything,
page right
so-
here is the total amortization schedule. So the column there in the middle, it shows the total principal plus interest of $57 million. That's on
Okay.
page 19. Yeah,
okay, so the $41 million project will cost us $57 million.
correct.
Okay,
When you
thank
add
you.
in the interest, yes.
Okay, since we're covering all of those.
Yes.
So, okay, thank you.
Yes.
That's helpful.
Yeah.
Just so I don't have to strain my eyes.
Yes, well,
Could you just talk a little bit about the impact of this project alone on ratepayers?
so what we're showing in this report right now is that there's no rate impact that we would be able to basically take. We have $3.8 million built in our prior rate case as being extensions and replacement. So if we would move forward with only this project, we would have to go to the commission and say, we would like to take a portion of that $3.8 million that we said annually, that we would pay for projects with cash on hand annually, and we'll need to shift some of that to be debt service of $1.2 million. So that's the only effect of what we're showing here in this report at this point in time.
So in other words, we would be robbing Peter to save Paul.
You would be taking for your extensions and replacements to do debt service, correct?
So in order to continue to, if we wanted to continue to make these repairs and extensions and things that we've
Correct.
already, as a board, looked at into our future planning and planned for rate increases anyway, we would be saying now we have to cut back on that.
Correct.
Or
Correct.
go for another rate increase to help fund this building. Is that
Correct.
what I'm hearing?
You have that correctly, yes.
Okay, thank you.
The additional annual debt service is a little under 2.5% of our total revenues. So a rate increase of about 2.5 somewhere between 2.5 and 3% would.
to what we already project each year?
No, if we could cover this debt service with a 2.5 or 3% rate increase.
In addition to what, we're already on a trajectory assumption that every year there's, we're reviewing everything on a schedule.
Right.
And I think we would probably, just given the economy, given everything, let's just assume that every year we're gonna have an increase. I mean, that's just the economy. So if we are assuming there's gonna be an increase on whether it's water or sewer or stormwater, whatever, we're always gonna have an increase.
Yeah, every few years when we do a rate case. So when we did the most recent sewer rate review last year, there was, I believe, $500,000 per year put into the CIP representing this project, assuming that that would be approximately the debt service from the sewer utility to cover this project. So it's my belief that we had already accounted for this possible project happening during the last sewer rate case. Some of that money will be used for the regrading at the property. We didn't do that on the water side. So what will happen is, should we proceed with this project, we would pay the sewer portion of the additional debt service out of the current sewer funding stream. We would pay the water portion of the new debt service out of the amended water rate that we would have after we do the 24 rate case. But that the additional debt service for the project would be included in the 2024 rate case. And at the same time that we got the rate approved, we'd also get the bonds approved. by the IURC. Does that make sense? So I believe we've already largely accounted for this in the sewer rate case with the anticipation that the dollars we got before we started the project would be used to restore the site. And then then when we do the water rate case, we'll handle the debt service from the water side and also the bonding and permission from the IURC. And then whatever we need to true up on the sewer side, we would do on the next sewer rate case.
But I don't recall, and maybe it's just, I'm just not remembering this. I mean, when we did the previous rate cases, I don't remember discussing a building for the Winston Thomas site. You know, we're talking about that there was money set aside for this. I don't remember it being for a building.
Well, it was for the Winston Thomas project, was put in there. Site restoration.
The site administration,
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
so yes, in part it was for this because it was for the remediation of that, cleaning up of that site,
That's right.
but not specifically for a $44 million building project.
The
There's-
restoration, right?
Yeah, it's gonna cost, that 40-something includes the site restoration.
Okay.
Which presumably we won't need to bond for because we're gonna be paying for it as we go.
Because that's included in what we've already,
Because we've already accounted for
Gotcha.
that. So,
Okay.
in round terms, if the simplest way to approximate at this time what this might do to the rates is to divide the additional debt service by our revenue. Our revenue is about $50 million. So take that number divided by 50 million, and that's approximately in the ballpark of what a rate increase would be to pay for the project. Is that right?
Generally, yes.
Yeah, generally, so between 2.5, around 2.5 to 3 would be the cost of the project.
thank you.
It's complicated, isn't it? Well,
It
part,
is.
because our rate cases don't line up with each other, so we have to anticipate on one side, but we can't anticipate on the other side, so it's complicated.
On the sewer side, I'll add, the last rate case that we did have a line item in the CIP for a new service center that had allocated just under $23 million in 2025.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thanks, Matt.
No problem.
Other questions from you, especially if you're not on the committee, please share if you have questions as well.
So,
Okay.
so at this point, we're not, again, this is information to continue along on our progress,
We
correct?
promised we would bring the report as soon as we could.
Are we going to delve into the appraisals at a different time, or is this,
The appraisals are included in that analysis, so we had 2 appraisals for this building. One was 2.8 million, the other was 4.1.
but is this where, I mean, or should we be,
Discussing these as well today.
should we be discussing those now, or is that for a separate time? I mean, I don't know where that falls in the process.
My vote is we address those at a separate time. This was more of a, hey, everybody, here's where we are. This is,
Yeah.
as of right now, this does look feasible. And then now, at a later date, we can dig into what made up the 45 million and the appraisals, and then we can have a deeper conversation on that.
Yeah,
Because
perfect.
these came like late this morning, I didn't have a chance to read all through them, but I could see there's quite a discrepancy, and I imagine other board members would like to read further too, so if we could please add that to a future agenda.
Sure.
Thank you.
I'd like to shoot for the 28th
Okay.
to do that.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and information to work on this. Our next item on the agenda is our 2024 budget presentation. Matt Havey.
Do you want me to run that from here, Frank? Oh, wait, I don't think I have a way to connect, so I'll let you. Oh, okay. Go ahead. Are you ready for me? I think one thing I wanted to do to start this out is to thank all the assistant directors for their efforts in helping get this together. Oh, and Holly and Frank, too, for all the efforts they put forward to get us this far. This is a record for how early we've been able to bring the budget to the board. Usually we're straining to get it to you in time for the budget hearings at the end of August. So our plan tonight was to present the budget presentation to the board, to the subcommittee, and then to the board as you desire. If the board is prepared to vote on this proposal tonight, that'd be fine. Otherwise, we could bring it back again in 2 weeks on the 14th. So the presentation is very similar to recent years. The City of Bloomington utilities exist to provide safe and sustainable water, wastewater, and stormwater services in an economical manner, promoting public health, prosperity, and quality of life in our community. We always talk about this at the beginning of our presentation. Our goal is to be recognized as the finest municipal utility system in the state. We have, at the present time, a total staff of 208. That's full-time, part-time, regular, and temporary positions. We have 3 different utilities, as you know, the water works, the sewer works, and the stormwater utility, with 6 interconnected divisions: administration, finance, engineering, transmission distribution, environmental, and operations. I like this picture. This is our team that went to the Indiana Wastewater Challenge in 2023. Just a little bit of a look back over the last 6 or 7 years. We've done a lot overall as a department and as a utility to change the way that we operate. We've instituted regular schedules for rate reviews. We try to do each utility approximately every 4 years. Sometimes we don't quite make it right on the 4-year schedule, and that's owing to things like pandemics and other complications that come up from time to time. We did the water works in 2016-21. We did the sewer works in 2016, 2019, 2022, and stormwater in 2019 and 2022. We've also deployed a lot of new technology, bringing ourselves up to sort of the state of the art, more or less, in the industry. Our advanced metering infrastructure has really changed the way we do a lot of things. We've done upgrades to our supervisory control and data acquisition systems in the plants. That's SCADA, if that word comes up again. We've instituted an integrated laboratory information management system. We've upgraded our GIS to ArcGIS, which makes a lot of things possible, including the CityWorks asset management system that we're in the last stages of deploying as we speak. Another thing that's important to point out is that we have instituted or restored a regular replacement schedule for our vehicles, and we have, it's more than 100, it's more than 150 actually vehicles that we have overall. In 2023, we're working to develop a strategic planning document through the Effective Utility Management Program. As you know, we've been talking about that. We are still exploring the possibility of relocating our service center and garage to the Winston Thomas property, and we have just completed, as you know, a preliminary financial plan for the project in terms of how we would finance it. Also in 2023, in the waterworks, we are replacing the filter media and the under drains at the water plant at Monroe. We are rehabilitating the east tank, that's what the picture is there, and instituting a SCADA data collection system for that tank as well. We are continuing our water main replacement program with a number of water main replacement projects underway. We are in the late stages of completing our review of water supply resiliency and what options the utilities department has to improve the resiliency of our water supply. And we're replacing the intake bar screens at the Monroe plant. The first one of the 2 screens has been replaced, and the second one is in progress now. In the sewer works, we're planning to rehabilitate 15,700 feet of pipe, 30 lateral connections, and 30 manholes. We're working on the sewer improvements near Catalent. That's a grant-funded project from the state. We are designing the final stage of the Dillman Road modernization and capacity improvements. We are hoping to be re-rated to 20 million gallons per day by IDEM. At this point, our consultants have told us that we really don't have much more to do to get to 20 million gallons per day, so that project may be a little bit smaller than we originally anticipated it would be. We're replacing 3 aging lift stations, continuing the implementation of the clear water reduction program, trying to find things like improperly connected sump pumps and rain gutters, and also other efforts to reduce clear water infiltration. And as you know, we're getting prepared to do a final review of options for a possible resource recovery, energy recovery facility that would be operated at the Dillman plant. It's a lot of ambitious goals. In the stormwater utility, we completed the Devon Lane bioretention facility. We've done a lot of in-kind support for various projects, constructed 3 new detention basins. Our team installed the new electrical conduits near the Von Lee in anticipation of the last phase of the downtown stormwater tunnel projects. We implemented the first phase of our stormwater master plan that was completed in 2022. Is that right? 22? Yeah. Yeah. Funded 11 additional rain gardens at various cities' projects, completed the wetland mitigation at the formerly Weimer Lake, and we've adopted the maintenance portion of the street sweeping program that we've spoken about a number of times. So as we start to talk about our goals for 2024, we organize these goals using the EUM framework, as we've discussed in the past. There are 10 activity areas that are outlined in the budget memo, things like product quality and resource viability and so forth. In the presentation, in the interest of saving time, we'll present only the 5 largest ones. So overall, for product quality, we allocate about, that number is $13.3 million overall for product quality throughout the system. Our goals on the water side for product quality are to operate 24/7, 365 without exceeding more than 2/3 of the EPA limits for disinfection byproducts, to complete the lead service line inventory. On the sewer plants, of course, we want to operate both plants 24 hours a day for the whole year without any violations. And in the stormwater quality, complete 2 one-time implementation items from the stormwater master plan. We are working and hoping to complete the development of a comprehensive stormwater design manual that would go to customers, developers, and so forth. We would assess the condition of 25% of the stormwater system and actually implement the MS4-based street sweeping program. This year we're doing the study to design how that MS4-based street sweeping would take place. Next year we would begin doing it. For operational optimization, there's a grand total of about $6.2 million dedicated to that. One of the big parts of that is full implementation and deployment of CityWorks asset management. That's going to unify, or is unifying, I should say, all of our work orders for all of our different utilities and all the different activities that we do. We'll continue to deploy at least 3 new decision support tools each year. We now have, I don't know if you haven't been back in the admin section, we now have a touchscreen display with, that provides access to data for various parts of our operation. You can browse around through the tables and the graphs using that new display. We'll expand the use of CityWorks by integrating the IT Pipes software, and then we'll implement the rest of the work order management for the street sweeping activities. Employee and leadership development is a high priority activity. We estimate that it's about $2.5 million or $2.6 million of our overall budget for the entire operation. Our goals for the coming year are to continue our commitment to personnel safety. As the mayor has requested, we will continue to invest at least 1.5% of our personnel budget for professional training and development. We are working to ensure that every work site has at least one team member who's CPR certified, and all the CPU's assistant directors and managers will complete diversity, equity, and inclusion training. Finally, in financial viability, this is the activity of ensuring that we have a reliable long-term financial plan for the entire operation. This costs about $4.5 million to operate year by year. The big thing is to implement the CityWorks-driven centralized work order and inventory systems at the plants. That also ties back into purchasing and helps us centralize a lot of purchasing activities that are a little more distributed now. Oh, that's the touchscreen display I mentioned a moment ago. And finally, infrastructure, strategy, and performance. This is the process of ensuring that we have reliable infrastructure throughout our system. This is about $10.2 million of our overall budget. And part of it is to move ahead with the potential redevelopment of the Winston Thomas campus. We have completed the initial financial analysis, and we're going to hopefully move ahead with facilities design as the next phase moving into the fourth quarter. On the water side, infrastructure strategy, we will conduct the financial analysis and rate case for the waterworks. That case would happen in 2024 to be implemented in 2025. We will replace at least a mile of water mains, or perhaps more. We'll replace the aging variable frequency drives at the Monroe Treatment Plant. We are looking, you've already heard about a guaranteed savings project to replace chemical feed lines, an additional backwash tank and modifications to the backwash pumps, and to replace a lot of valve actuators at Monroe. We also will be working on the refurbishment of the South Central booster. That's the one right next to us here at the service center, and the West booster pumping station. We also are working always to improve enterprise resiliency, making sure that we have backups for everything that we do. For infrastructure strategy and sewer, we'll be implementing new SCADA displays and improving the solids handling of Blucher Pool. We'll be developing sewer flow models for 3 critical sewer sheds that can be used for design of future sewer expansions. If the resource recovery project moves along in '24, we would need to complete facility design, secure the financing, and begin the construction. We will begin phase 2 of the Dillman Improvements Project, continue our sewer lining projects as we have in recent years, upgrade 10 more lift stations, and continue the Clearwater program and add a canine unit. Yeah, did that say canine unit? I don't know if everybody's heard about this. So I know I've talked about it with some of you. Inflow and infiltration of stormwater is a big problem for us. A lot of that comes through openings, big openings in pipes or measurable sized openings in pipes. Also, sometimes it's coming from leaking laterals and so forth. It turns out that over the course of the year, about a quarter of the water that goes through the Dillman plant fell as rain in the time preceding its arrival at the plant. This is due to degraded sewers and aging sewers. Also, we've been having, as you know, a lot of lateral strikes and sewer strikes from all the fiber optic activity. One of the big problems with sewer strikes and lateral strikes is they may not be manifested in terms of either a blockage in a lateral or sewage appearing at the land surface for quite some time after the strike occurs, and by that time the contractor may not be around, and the bond may have been closed out, so there may not be a way to pay for it. So over the years, the last few years, we've noticed a number of utilities, a couple of them in the States, actually have trained dogs to do things like sniff for chlorine at water main breaks, sniff for sewer gas where sewers are leaking, and we would like to try to do that. This would require that we hire a handler to manage a dog. We would acquire a dog that had been bred for this purpose. We would train them to sniff for sewer gas, and we're not inventing it. This has actually been done elsewhere, and we've had an extensive conversation with BPD about the possibilities of a system like this. We would like to attempt this program starting in 2024, and hopefully, especially if we can find things like sewer line strikes and sewer line leaks, we could prevent a lot of future problems and hopefully save a lot of people a lot of money on things that should be paid for by contractors that did the damage. Why is this not moving? It's not moving, Frank. Oh, okay. In stormwater, we will continue our work with the Residential Stormwater Grants Program. We revise the way that operates every year to try and optimize its performance. We will complete the upstream inlet improvements near 6th and Indiana. That would be the last phase of the downtown Clear Creek tunnel. It takes the water from IU all the way down to 1st and Washington. And we will have an operational street sweeping program that are based on recommendations from the street sweeping routing plan. This table, I think you've just seen. This is a summary of the bond payments that we're making each year. Right now, the 2023 budget was $11 million, and then 2024 it's about $12 million in annual debt service for the whole operation. The revenue budgets for all departments, we're seeing an increase in the water utilities. That's related to the second phase of the 2021 rate case going into effect. That was implemented in two phases. The first was in 2022. The second is in 2024. Sewer and stormwater, where these increases are based on an assumption of somewhat increased demand. If this all pans out, this would be the first time that CBU's overall revenues exceeded $50 million. In the waterworks, I think there's an error in this table that we can, it's at the bottom of the table. We will correct this table and send it out to you. But overall, we're seeing increases according to inflation in the ones and twos and threes, and then we have to recalculate the numbers in the table based on the other changes. So I apologize for the increase for the errors in the 2024 proposed column. On the sewer side, we're anticipating about a 1.5% increase and personnel services, supplies, and the other services. And of course, when the increases happen in the ones and twos and threes, and in the wastewater sinking fund, that's the debt service. That leads to a decrease in the available cash for ENR in extensions and replacements in any given year. So this is what we typically see year by year during a rate cycle. So overall, the total increase for the total change in the budget is around $350,000 for sewer. In the stormwater utility, things are pretty flat in terms of revenues. We do have an increase in the sinking fund related to the project that's going to happen at 6th and Indiana. In 2024, we anticipate that we will be bonding for that project, and that is included here. So overall, the change in the entire budget is around $26,000, but most of the changes happen with the debt service. Let me say again, we're not anticipating a change in any of in the stormwater fee in 2024, but some of the capital investments that we were going to do in storm in 2024, we'd originally planned to do them in cash as a pay-as-you-go basis, but that project at 6th and Indiana is turning out to be about 2.5 times as much money as we had anticipated when we did the rate case. So we're going to bond for that project. So that takes a lot of money out of ENR and moves it into debt service in order to cover those projects. So in the 2024 budget supports our stated goals, explicitly identifying how our activities affect carbon emissions, expanding our climate action programs, increasing our capacity for wastewater treatment, optimizing our drinking water quality through treatment improvements, replacing our aging water mains, making capital improvements to our stormwater system, modernizing our business practices and processes, working to improve diversity, equity, and inclusion for our workforce and for our customers, and if USB and Council approve of the move, we would plan to complete the facilities design and final financial analysis for redevelopment at Winston Thomas, and hopefully begin construction during 2024. So thank you, and I'm happy to, Matt's here to answer questions, and all the other assistant directors are here to answer questions as well. Thank you.
All right, who would like to ask a question first? Kirk.
Does the stormwater proposal include the new street sweeping requirements and program?
We did, that was included in the last in the last stormwater rate review. We included money for street sweeping. We're taking on not all of the street sweeping responsibilities of the city, but building a program that specifically identifies issues where street sweeping is compromising stormwater quality or stormwater flow. So that was included in the last rate review. We'll be spending stormwater money on that on that portion of it in 2024. This year is a year of designing the program, and next year is a year of spinning it up.
Well, I just wondered because they're going to transfer those employees, or if we've got to hire employees, we've only got a 1.5% change in personnel services for 24 over 23.
We'll have to review how that number was allocated there. I don't know that we had anticipated. We did not anticipate adding staff. We were repurposing. Yeah, we were repurposing other positions in the department for that.
Well, yeah, we should talk some more about that, because if we're taking people from one place, we need to kind of figure out what we're not going to do so that we can pick up stormwater, or pick up street sweeping.
We can bring the organizational chart on the 14th and show how that's going to happen.
Okay, thanks. And I guess along the same lines, you know, on supplies and equipment and things like that. What that, you know, what kind of fiscal impact that has for '24 over '23, because it, you know, it's
Well,
a lot
initially,
more work for us.
initially, we're getting we're getting equipment from the Public Works Department, but we have, until the sweeping study is complete, we don't know exactly what we're buying yet.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
And Vic, was the error that you pointed out for the sewer works
It
budget?
was in the waterworks.
Well, look at the sewer works, unless I'm missing something.
Can you go back to it, Frank? Oh, I've got the clicker.
Toward the end, yeah, it has 14.6%, which looks wrong to me.
Well, that's the total change in the budget. There was a new bond for sewer and storm
So that includes that.
that would go into effect in 2024. And that's that $321,000 change.
Okay, the way these charts are, it kind of looks like the change from here to here is this, but that's not what it is. You know what I'm saying? The
Oh,
budget.
that isn't 14%.
Budget moved $400,000.
Yeah, that's not 14%. We'll check, we'll check
Yeah,
the
that-
table. Okay. Where did that come up?
See, here's how we fix this before you go to the city council.
Yeah. yeah. Well, and we really don't know the personnel services either. We get that from the controller a couple of days before we present to council.
And since you brought it up, Kirk, are we happy with the street sweeping new chore, and it's going all right?
Well,
I know
haven't
we had
start-
a lot of questions about it when it was first brought up.
Well, we really haven't started yet.
Yeah,
So we're,
So-
we're in the process of designing what that program will look like for us,
So
with the
we're
idea that we'll
still-
start doing it next year.
so we're still nervous?
I don't think nervous is right. I think we're optimistic that it's
Okay.
going to help with the MS4 program
Yeah,
overall.
I think it has good
It will-
upside to it.
Yeah.
I just hope it can be done easily and efficiently.
It will take time to work through the details.
Jim, just to add, the 14.6 should be 1.4.
That's what I
It- it-
thought.
Just a decimal point, so we'll get it moved.
Where are we on the process with the bonding for the finishing up the project at Sixth and Indiana
We'll be bringing that in the fall.
in the fall?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And the canine project.
Yeah.
I think this is very innovative, and I think it's great. I just want to make sure that we're not doing something that I don't know. I like us looking at different opportunities for us to find the I don't know how to say this the right way. Like, I think it's a great idea to explore, but are we trying to be leaders in this? Are we followers in this? Or I did a little research on it. I've seen that they do it in Europe. You know, who else is doing it here?
There's at least one utility in South Carolina that's doing it with sewer gas. There's at least,
Yeah, that one was Arkansas. But
and
so two.
the one in Arkansas was doing water.
Yeah.
So it.
I just want to know, is it, I mean, in all seriousness, when we have, is it something that we truly need to spend that money on? If
So,
if there's other things that we need to be using that money for, so.
Yeah, it's not a huge amount of money in the grand scheme of things compared to the size
Oh,
of
yeah,
the
the
whole.
overall budget, of course. I
Compared to
understand.
the whole operation, it's a pretty small piece. It's one of those things that has a huge upside if it works well, especially for customers that are if we can identify when somebody's had a strike on their sewer lateral, we'll save our customers lots and
Sure.
lots of money by doing that, because the contractor that broke their lateral will be responsible for it, so.
And it certainly would
that's-
have been very helpful to have this past year.
It would have been, well, and,
Now it-
and that's not going to stop. The project that AEG is executing, that's a 3-year or 4-year project. So
Perfect.
those guys are not going away. Nobody's going to stop directional drilling next year or the year after. So that's going to be an ongoing problem. And no one has really come up with a reliable way of finding lateral strikes, much less, we've had cases where employees were working on a completely different thing and discovered a hole in a sewer pipe. If you have a sizable hole in a sewer pipe, stormwater will just rush right into it. So when you find those holes, you fix them, but the question is always, they're underground, how do you find them?
Yeah.
And so the whole idea of this is that dogs are better at smelling sewer gas than we are, and they stand a lot closer to the ground. So one that was well-trained could possibly identify those holes. Well, if you find one big hole in a sewer, you've paid for a lot. And you know, certainly we can explore. We're always doing sewer lining projects. It would be useful to be able to identify locations that maybe we hadn't already identified as possible sewer lining opportunities. So my thinking is that certainly we would look at it as something we would start doing, see how it performs, and
Yeah.
you know, a year from now, we'll have a lot more to say about it. And it maybe after 2 or 3 years, we'll say, well, that worked fairly well, but maybe isn't working as well as we need it to.
And
But
I think it's I think it's a great thing to explore and an innovative, creative way to do it. And, you know, I just want to make sure we're spending, and it is in the larger picture of the budget is a small amount of money, but I just want to make sure we're not doing something foolish. If
Right.
You know.
No, I asked the same question. And I don't think it's foolish. We would be the first in the state, certainly, to do it. And if it works well, it would be tremendous.
Absolutely.
So I'm optimistic that it can find some things that we don't have a way to find right now.
Great.
Vic, are there technology ways? Don't we have pretty good electronic sensors, portable sensors that can find
Not
this
for
kind of
sniffing
gas?
it, not for sniffing at this concentration.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay,
But that I know of.
okay.
The best we can do, if, for example, if you're looking for holes in laterals, the best we can do is run a camera down them.
Yeah.
And that's really, really expensive. We don't really have the ability to do that.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking that, you know, we have, you know, the gas utilities for natural gas have ways to sense that in various concentrations. Just wonder if chemically it's somewhat the same, or if there are, you know, manufacturers that make sensors for this type of gas instead of what's the usual natural gas sensors that they show up with when you think you've got a leak at your house or whatever.
They're sniffing for mercaptans that they put there on purpose. So that's
Yeah.
a different gas entirely. The question of if there are on the market,
Yeah, right.
off-the-shelf sensors on the market, I don't know of any. Phil, you might know of something that.
Pardon me?
Sewer- Not for sensing sewer gas that we know of.
Okay. My second point on all this is historical. Back when city government was first thinking about canines for law enforcement purposes, this was a very sensitive topic, because when a government vehicle shows up in your front yard with a dog, some people really get nervous about that. So if we're gonna do this, we're gonna have to do it carefully. I can see all sorts of suspicions and nervousness about a city of Bloomington SUV showing up in somebody's front yard or, wherever it might be, and it says canine and a canine sniffer, even though it says utilities or whatever, people are gonna get nervous about that. It took a while for, you remember those days, it took a while for the city council to accept the idea of canine services for the police department.
Well, if you saw the recent video.
Well, I did see
of
that
the dog
video
attack,
of the attack
There
on.
may be reasons for nervousness.
Right. So if we do this, we're gonna have to be careful about how we educate people. What we need to do is both eyes open and understanding that not every dog is the nice service animal that, helps somebody when they're blind. Other people look at these things differently, and
Certainly, yeah.
Are we talking about one dog with one
One dog
owner?
with one,
So,
yeah.
and it lives with a handler?
That's right.
So it's
And not trained to attack anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's more safe.
oh yeah, I mean,
than using it
we
for-
know it's gonna be safe, and it's gonna be trained to be safe, and it's gonna, all that sort of thing, but it's just the idea of government showing up at your house with a dog jumping out of the back of what looks like, in some people's eyes, a police car.
Right.
This is gonna be probably the same kind of vehicle they use, so.
Maybe they could train a dachshund.
Well,
Thanks, Jim.
well, we're obviously, if we do this, we're gonna be doing a lot of public outreach. And eventually, you would hope that if this program is working well, the dog eventually becomes an ambassador at public events so that people
Yeah.
can get to know about what we're doing. and-
Certainly
and why
has
we're
that
doing it.
potential.
Yeah, and that would certainly be our intention. It wouldn't be a large menacing dog. And certainly we would not train it to protect the handler or anything like that. The purpose of the dog would be sniffing for sewer gas.
I do have a couple of comments on this topic.
Thanks.
I just want to acknowledge that we are past 5 o'clock for our start time of our regular meeting. So our subcommittee will just continue on for a couple more minutes here. So my comments would be, so the dog would stay with the handler. Is there a possibility that this could be someone that's already a current CBU employee, that they would be interested in this, to take this on?
If they had the proper credentials and background, but they would have to apply for the position and interview. It's not something where we would just go find somebody in the department to do. This is a specialized skill that
They would learn with the
Yeah,
dog.
that-
Right. And then, so since the dog stays with the handler, then if the handler would decide to move, then whatever expenses we put into the dog being trained and that handler would then just be lost until we found a
we would
new-
find another handler at that point. The dog would still be trained to do the same thing.
So the dog would stay with CBU.
The dog would be our dog,
Our
not
dog,
the handler's
not-
dog. That's right.
Okay. Okay. And I noticed that the budgeting was $9,000 less the first year. Is that just because we wouldn't expect to get things up and rolling until, or the dog wouldn't be, actively
I believe
doing
that's
its
true.
job the
Well,
first
part of it
year?
is that we won't have everybody here on January 1st, the first year.
Right, okay. I think this sounds like a great idea, very, as Amanda used the word, innovative. I like the outreach aspect of it. I think there's I just heard about it today, so I've got like more questions and things, I guess. Not like I wouldn't vote for that question, but just, thinking about logistically, I'd like to hear more about that. Are there any other questions on this topic first? Okay, and then are there other questions on the budget? Or comments?
Vote on it today, so we can,
We can update the tables and so forth. If you have additional questions, I will not be in Bloomington on the 14th, so if that matters. But I will try to attend. If we can do a hybrid meeting on the 14th, I can join by Zoom.
Well, you say,
So-
does that mean it would be more beneficial to do it today?
I would leave that all up to you.
Okay,
'Cause
knowing you're not
Matt and the others can speak to it as well as I can, so. But I would be remote that day.
Okay,
That's all. So I would leave it up to you all to decide what you want to recommend.
Okay. I had just a couple more comments that I just want to throw out there, just, I guess, because I won't remember to say them again. So I know we have some money allocated for the Friends of Lake Monroe and the Lake Monroe watershed, which I think is important. I'm wondering, and I know that I've heard bits and pieces about what they do throughout the year. Maybe there's an opportunity for them to come and, a representative come to give a environmental subcommittee report to that, or to all of us, just to hear about, what that money, how that impacts their overall budget.
They've done that, I think.
I feel
we
like
tried
I've
to get
seen them, but just not recently that
Yeah,
I
I think we
remember.
try to get them in annually to talk
Okay.
about that.
But, okay, so thank you, just continue that. I know you mentioned about having, someone on site that's CPR certified. Forgive me if this has been mentioned before, but do we have AEDs at all of our
Yeah.
sites or in our trucks? Like if we have a big work site, if we got more than 10 people on site, do we have, one that can be there? Or that was just a random number, but is that something
Where
that?
do we have in the field, James?
No, we don't carry them in the field, and we haven't done that in the past.
Okay. I just wondered, I think that you hear more and more about how invaluable they are at saving lives, and so if that's, something that would be good to have, maybe. Okay. Any other comments? All right. Do we have a motion today to approve the budget or table the budget I've heard discussed?
well, given that Vic's not here, I think we've had access to it. I'd be okay with voting today.
Okay, so our committee would then recommend it to the regular meeting. Yes, okay. So, did I hear a motion? Do I hear a second?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, so the motion passes. We'll recommend that at the regular meeting.
Thank you. And we
Are-
will send updated tables before.
And with updated tables, yes,
Yep.
thank you. Are there any petitions and communications? All right, hearing none, do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Okay,